Good morning. All right. Good to see you all. So nice to be here. I've been away for a couple weeks. It's like coming home. I get to come home more than once. I get to come home to a house that I live in and a spouse that I live with, and I get to come home to a community that I live with, and this little house that we practice in together. So before I get into the material of the talk, I want to just talk about some things related to MZMC as a practice place. So probably many of you know, last week Ted and the guiding teacher, Ted, and Katie, the board president, made some announcements, and then we sent out an email to the membership. Membership is people who have made a donation designated as membership within the last year. And that message said that Ted is going to be retiring from the guiding teacher position at the beginning of next year, and is going to still hang out with us and bring his spirit and his practice. So I'm just really grateful for all that you have offered, Ted, and that you're wisely taking care of your life in this way that is appropriate. Also at that time, both Ted and Katie, the board president, asserted that it was they were very interested in appointing me to be the guiding teacher starting next year. So, and then also that we were going to solicit input from the community through an anonymous feedback form. And that is happening now. So there's like a 10-day period, I think it ends in 3 or 4 days, in which you can send your opinion about this matter to the board. I will say we have over 200 members, so you don't need to write an essay. I think all of us really want to hear from people. We want to understand your concerns and your enthusiasms and whatever you want to say at this time. But yeah, we will have plenty to read, so there's a value to being lean of speech or writing, as the case may be. Anyway, so it is quite possible that I will be appointed as guiding teacher, and if that occurs, I am grateful and honored to serve this community. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this today, but I just want to be clear that I think what is happening here is good, that people here are doing wonderful things, and I want to support that. And I've been able to support that as assistant guiding teacher for a couple of years, and as a senior teacher, and as an ENO, and as a TENDO, and a work leader, and a chief floor sweeper every Tuesday and Thursday morning. So anyway, I am hoping this can be just a good process for everyone involved, and I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. Okay, I could talk about that a lot more, but I'm not going to. So, thank you. This is really, life changes. So I guess they put this straw in here because people were dipping the microphone into the water. And I'm not sure what that does to the audio quality. Jimi Hendrix probably tried it, but we're not supposed to. So this is cool. It's just like a little bamboo straw. Next time, could you put like an umbrella in this? Thank you for taking care of me, Julian. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a bit today about the Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. And I have given many talks about this song, which is It has a very simple melody, as you will see at some point. But anyway, you know, my first book, I've written 5 books now, and my first book was about the Song of the Grass of Hermitage. It was a line-by-line commentary. That book is called Inside the Grass Hut. So I had the experience of giving many, many talks about this. And then sometimes I think, well, that's done. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then I chant it, and I go, I would like to talk about this some more. This is really wonderful. And, you know, we have perennial things that we talk about. This is a spiritual tradition, and it seems like most spiritual traditions have cyclical and returning texts and themes that we talk about a great deal. Yesterday, I was at a meeting that was being chaired by a rabbi. It was a meeting of religious leaders. And to begin, he said, well, this is tonight. This was Friday. It was Friday that this happened. He said, tonight is the beginning of Shabbat, and the Torah portion, I might have some of this wrong. It's about a particular holiday all about love. And so he just talked about love for a while. And I thought, man, I wish like every year I just look at my calendar and be like, all right, we're talking about love. But this tendency within spiritual and religious traditions to have cyclical and returning themes is valuable, probably for a lot of reasons. One of the main ones being, I need a lot of reminders. It's very easy to return to habituated ways of thinking and doing that are not very beneficial. Maybe you just you heard, you know, love one another when you were 8 years old, and then you were done. Just loved everybody all the time, without exception, with boundless energy. I think it is possible, though, that you find there are times when that is hard. Certainly is for me. So the Song of the Grass of Hermitage is a poem written by an 8th century Chinese Zen teacher named Shito Shichen. And Shito is generally considered the 8th Chinese ancestor. So Soto Zen is a lineal tradition. And we have a large number of lineal ancestors, which I probably should know. But anyway, many in India, and then a bunch in China. He's the 8th Chinese, and then many in Japan, and now some here in the United States. And is most famous for his poem that is very standard in Soto Zen liturgy called the Sandokai, or the Harmony of Difference and Sameness. So this is his much lesser known poem, but I wrote a book because I was like, I would like this to be the most known poem. Probably never catch up, but it's quite wonderful. And, you know, it's on my mind because I just got back from leading a 6-day wilderness backpacking retreat. And during that retreat, I like to chant this every day because it is about living in a small, impermanent shelter in the elements and realizing a profound peace and connection, energy, and agency in that context. So when I lay down in my tent in the torrential rain, with the lightning striking and there seems to be an actual sizable pond forming underneath my sleeping pad. Thought, this is mountain practice. This is mountain practice. And I do just want to say thank you to all the folks who are in this room and not, who came on that trip. It's wonderful to be together. One of the themes of the Song of the Grass of Hermitage is, you know, the first teaching of the Buddha was the middle way between chasing after sensual pleasures and trying to engage in self-mortification to help yourself get free of your attachments. But the basic idea of a middle way, which is going to include polarities and a middle, runs throughout the tradition in many different ways. And in the Song of the Grass of Hermitage, we have a clear some polarities. One, it seems like people doing Zen practice were kind of hardcore. You know, just like sitting in the Zendo until people walking in would think it was a room full of dead tree stumps. It's just hours and days and through the night. And even in the earliest record, the Buddha's like, man, you know, you should be getting up before dawn to meditate, and you should be up well after they use, I think they have a different time screen. They don't use hours, but you know, the idea is you should be sitting till about midnight and getting up at about 4. And that's like what a monk should do. Not recommending you try this for very long, but it does say something about the commitment to presence, the commitment to being alert within your life for the purpose of alleviating suffering. Anyway, that being said, there's this whole culture of this kind of intensity. And then this poem, the third line is, after eating, I relax and enjoy a nap. And I can tell you there are not a lot of liturgical texts in the Buddhist tradition that say that. So this kind of, we have this polarity of this intensity, and Sherto says, well, I had lunch, time for a rest. Very nice. And this is, I think, a part of this poem that people really focus on. So people hear this poem and they're often thinking, oh, this is the one that's about chilling out. It's like living in your little grass hut and you get to take a nap after lunch, and it says relax completely, open your hands, let go. Ah, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Relax, let go, open your hands and walk innocent. Wonderful themes. But it's very evident that the mountain practice that Sherto did and that his contemporaries did and that I was recently doing is not always easy. That pond under your sleeping bag, you know, it can be endured, but it may not be comfortable. And the elements in the mountains do what the mountains do. There is no air conditioning. There are no beautiful 4 walls. You are in the world. Zen was practiced by people who entered the world completely, often by leaving what you think of as like the conventional world. So this text also says you should bind grasses to build a hut. Don't give up. We have this like, put the energy in. Realize the way. I don't know about you, but if you were to just generally look at the way the word Zen is used in the United States, it's pretty chill. It's like, oh, this person is chill. I mean, they probably smoke pot. I don't know. That's fine, or whatever. I'm not getting into that. But you know, the vibe in the ways Zen has been understood in the US does not reflect the intensity of the commitment to liberation that has run through the tradition since its inception and since before it formed out of Buddhism. So here you can have intense commitment to open your hands and walk innocent. That is possible. You can completely let go while you bind grasses. These 2 lines in the poem live right next to each other. What is that? Now we start to get to what Zen is often doing, is posing us an impossible set of apparent opposites and saying, yeah, just do those at the same time. You're not going to figure it out with your mind. Oh, it's a percussion instrument too. I will say that this poem is about retreat. Sherto was an abbot who served a large community. You got to raise money, find out where to put the stupas, take care of the planning, meet with a lot of people. And then he also had, there's actually, I've seen a picture of it, there's a rock, his name means on top of the rock, and there's a rock on a mountain in China where his hut was. So he would practice at the temple with a lot of people, doing a lot of things, some of which were sitting still and doing nothing. That's doing something. And then he would go to this hermitage. And we don't really know, but it seems quite plausible that he wrote this poem in that hermitage practice. This is actually a good idea. I don't recommend personally that you just go and live in a hut by yourself without talking to anyone forever. Nor do I recommend that you just run into the marketplace and desperately try and get things done without pause. What I really recommend is finding a rhythm in your life between taking time for retreat, to slow down, to actively open your hands, to inactively let go. Letting go is letting go of letting go. And retreat is designed for that. Yeah. So we got lots of retreats here. You might be like, I'm not signing up for 7 days of Rohatsu. That sounds hard. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But we have half-day retreats, 1-day retreats, 5-day retreats, 2-day retreats. They are a way to access what this poem is about. And even the simple retreat of just coming and sitting zazen in this room, which is quite quiet in the morning, except for occasionally Anne's cat, which is kind of fun. Sounds like a very arrhythmic drummer upstairs, running around overhead, but generally pretty quiet. Maybe the chimes from this grief installation in the yard, or rain, birds, the occasional loon. Ooh, can take the time. Okay, well, that's a little introduction about the poem. I'm going to ask John maybe to enlist someone and hand out some chant books. We don't have chant books enough for everyone, so a great thing to do is if you're handing them out, hand like 2 or 3 down per row. And that way people can share. Thank you for doing that. You don't need to open the books yet. I will tell you where to go in a minute. So thank you for handing those out. Yeah, so we can chant this poem. I'm always talking about chanting up here. Getting used to it, I bet. But, you know, we'll chant on a single pitch. I'll chant the title. We'll chant together. And one of the things that we've been developing here a little bit, I think for various reasons. One, some have visited Japan and heard the chanting there. And one of the things we'll do today that we are developing here is at the end of the line, you don't need to breathe at the end of the line. So you'll hear that some of us are going to chant right through the end of the line, and then we're going to take a breath later. So the breaths are staggered. So my son's jazz director once said, I want this to sound like a superhighway covered in shampoo. And I do not need this to, that sounds cool, but that's not what we're doing. But this might sound like maple syrup being poured out of a jug. Let's say, and not like this. I built a grass hut where there's nothing of value. After eating, I relax, enjoy a nap. When it was completed, fresh weeds appeared. Now it's been lived in, covered by weeds. The person in the hut lives here calmly. More like that, but together. So I'm going to read this because I've so many translations. All right, well, let's chant together. Oh, sorry, yes. It's good to have friends. Yeah, if you're online and you want to chant, it's on the MCMC webpage under Resources, Chants and Services, and it's in Session Midday Service. Session Midday Service, which has a tab. Session Midday Service, page 4.4. Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. I've built a grass hut where there's nothing of value. After eating, I relax and enjoy a nap. When it was completed, weeds appeared. Now it's been lived in, covered by weeds. The person in the hut lives calmly, not stuck to inside, outside, in between places worldly people live, eat and live, realms worldly people love, she doesn't love. The hut is small, it includes the entire world in 10 feet square. An old monk illuminates forms in their nature. A great vehicle, Bodhisattva trust without doubt. The middling mortal, he can't help wondering, will this hut perish or not? Perishable or not, the original master is present. The dwelling south or north, east or west, firmly based on steadiness, it can't be surpassed. The shining window below the green pines, jade palaces or vermilion towers can't compare with it. Just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. Thus this mountain monk doesn't understand at all. Living here, he no longer works to get free. Who would proudly arrange these, trying to entice guests? Turn around the light to shine within, then just return. The vast, inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. The ancestral teachers, be familiar with their instruction. Buy grasses to build a hut and don't give up. Let go of hundreds of years and relax completely. Open your hands, walk innocent. Thousands of words, myriad interpretations are only too free from obstructions. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from this skin bag here. May all the benefit of this recitation be an offering for the liberation of all beings throughout space and time. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about a couple specific parts of this now. It's a simple topic called space, non-duality, and this moment of awareness. The poem says, not stuck to inside, outside, or in between. Chertow says this mountain monk is not stuck to inside, outside, or in between. Earlier I was talking about the middle way, gives you these polarities and then a middle. And many, many Buddhist texts will take one thing, its opposite, the middle, and say something like, yeah, none of these. And you're left with what? With this! Only the mind makes opposites. There are no opposites outside of what the mind has done. And there's no middle. There's something right now. It's much more mysterious than our opposite making mind can get a hold on. So it's quite wonderful to take a break from turning things into opposites. Me, you, inside, outside, so forth. You know, it's quite common to think of like our own mental world as being interior, inside. You know, look inward to see how you feel, what you're thinking, or the mysteries of your soul. I don't know what that is. It's probably wonderful. And then outside is like, you know, stuff that's out there that can be, we can do things to. And, you know, in the 4 Foundations of Mindfulness Sutra, with each element that we become mindful of, it says become mindful of it. Well, not each one, most of them. It says become mindful of them internally and then mindful of them externally. So many or most of those things are things like feelings. So it's like be aware if there's anger internally. Oh, and then like, oh, they look mad, you know. Notice, be aware. Or notice if there is desire internally or externally. So that's about within your own self, whatever that is, and within the people you are with. And many, many Zen texts are going to dissolve or challenge dualities that are very prevalent and important in earlier Buddhist texts. So this is definitely an example of that. Where is your mind? I'm not inviting you to figure it out. So many, many things within our tradition are actually confusing. I think it's good to be confused. I think it's good to be confused. People seem to have a lot of things figured out. And frequently, that causes a lot of difficulty. I'm not saying you shouldn't determine what you should do, or you shouldn't understand your values, or you shouldn't think about how you can serve and help people. But certainty can be a real barrier to intimacy. So, yeah. Seems like mind and emotions are inside. And maybe it seems like, does it seem like your skin is sort of the edge of your being, maybe? I don't know. Maybe not. Certainly won't always seem that way if you do a lot of Zen practice. I don't think. So something about how we relate to space is being challenged. Not even challenged, he's just like, yeah, I'm not stuck to any of that. They're just ideas. And then later on, this is not dwelling south or north, east or west. Well, what's left? Shurto uses a similar line in the Sandokai, the way has no northern or southern ancestors. And an interesting thing about all this is like every one of these things, you could give a totally different whole talk or series of talks just on this one line because they have packed so many allusions to other Buddhist teachings within 2 or 3 words. So Zen is so great because it's all about going beyond words and letters, shedding all the divisive tendencies of our mind and meeting with total intimacy this moment, and yet it gives us this literature that's unbelievably densely elusive. And you know, I just compare relating to this to like, it's really good when you're eating to think about how it has come to be so that this food can be here. So before every formal meal in the Zen tradition, we say, innumerable labors have brought us this food, let us consider how it comes to us. And oftentimes we'll have a practice where you just think of like, what all the things that had to happen so I could have this beans and rice. And, you know, so many people's efforts, and so many natural phenomena, all that. So it's really good to think about it, actually think about it. This is a little different than being like, this is mine. This is my food. Taking it for granted. But if you continually return to the practice of thinking about all the conditions that produce that food, at some point you also may just look at it and you don't have to think about those conditions at all. You just know your your total intimacy with the whole process that has enabled it to be there, without any thinking about it. So you can think about these texts and to like unpack all the complicated stuff. And then you can also just, if you do that, at some point you may just be like, that just made sense. I can't tell you how many people have told me like, you know, they're like, oh, someone said, you know, just bring yourself to the moment. And they're like, my mind just was blown. They've been practicing Buddhism for like 20 years. They've heard it 400 times, 5,000 times, 100 different ways. And boom, it just, suddenly it touches you in a way that changes the way you actually see that moment and who you are. So anyway, not dwelling south or north, east or west, where are you living? Where are you living? With loving kindness practice in the traditional early text, you focus on projecting love out this way, then that way, then that way, then that way. Very making us defining space. Here, letting go of defining space. Letting consciousness dissipate in all directions so there's no center and no periphery. I can recall when I started Zen practice, my son was like 7 or something. And then when I was ordained, he was maybe 13. And sometimes I would be irritated with my child. And I think I can say that without, you know, like impugning his character. I don't know anyone who has children who isn't sometimes annoyed, and I'm pretty confident that he was sometimes annoyed with me. That's part of the deal. You love people, sometimes there's difficulty usually. And I just remember one thing that I had taken in from this practice was, you know, the more annoyed I would get, the more I'd be like, I am here and he is there and he needs to do this X, Y, or Z, right? And it's like the mind gets in this narrow channel. And I was like, I don't actually think that I enjoy my life the most when that's happening, nor do I do the most helpful things. This is insights of practice, everybody. It's deep stuff. And yeah, so sometimes I would just practice. I would maybe use a breath or two to help me stabilize the mind. And then just, you know, say we're trying to go somewhere and he's not ready. And I'm like, ah! And I just let awareness just dissipate in all directions. Not dissipate. It's not emanating either. Just be. Just let awareness be everywhere. Because it already is, you know, that awareness of the peripheral field is already there, of sounds behind, in front, beyond me, and let go of all the direction making about it and just open. Field awareness. Not a center dwelling in the midst of it, but just the field of awareness. And that seemed helpful. And we'll say, I was just thinking about, yes, waiting is a great time to practice. Because whenever you're waiting, you've turned your life into suffering. And instead of waiting, you could actually be here. Every time, invariably. There is no circumstance in which it isn't true. The turning it into a waiting for something else is something your mind has done that is not helping you. And yeah, it's like, well, I'm here. As opposed to, when is he going to find his shoes? Whatever kind of thing I was off on. I want to just do a brief little meditation practice. And I'm just, this will be like 1 minute, so you don't have to get too fancy. But you might want to close your eyes for this one. It's going to be real simple. You could just let the attention rest in the body. Notice the body sensations. First foundation of mindfulness. And now, just notice how you feel, whatever the emotional or affective tone of your experience. You don't have to figure it out too much. Just turn your attention there and notice it. And maybe just name it with a simple word, or 2 or 3. And now see if you can locate where this feeling is spatially, in space. Like your body is in a space. Where's the feeling? And maybe while we're at it, just see if you can locate your mind. Okay, well, you could let go of looking around and just let the attention be complete, all the sounds and sensations. Maybe open the eyes to include the whole visual field. All right, well, thank you. One of Shurto's antecedents after Shurto, Dongshan, 2 generations later, maybe 3 or 4, in the lineage, wrote a poem called the Song of the Jewel Mirror Samadhi. And it says in it, turning away and touching are both wrong. I love these guys. Turning away and touching are both wrong. So that flavor is a little bit more, intense. Shurto's just like, I'm not stuck to inside, outside. Well, this has to do with how we have divided the world into space and being free of that, at least briefly, or being able to see through its solidity. Yeah, turning away and touching are both wrong. Yeah, what's going on here? This maybe, I just like letting this evoke things, and I remember a moment when I was at a big club for people in recovery from addiction, and also had people who are in recovery from being in relationship to people with addiction. That's not the way to put it. They're in recovery from the habits they had developed while being in relationship to people with addiction. And anyway, there was some conversation going on about how to deal with some problem in the kind of social room. And this really great super hippie guy was walking by, and we were kind of debating, and he stopped and he turns to us and he just said, "Detach with love," and then kept walking. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Turning away and touching are both wrong. So detach with love. Somehow we haven't turned away. There's some connection there, and yet it's not reaching out for this apparent object to do something to it. Progress is not a matter of far or near. This is from Shurto Sandokai. Progress is not a matter of far or near. But if you are confused, mountains and rivers block your way. I can tell you, having recently spent 6 days hiking in the mountains, that I'm very confused. Because I often thought, I'm going to have to go over that to get where I want to go. But again, progress is not a matter of far or near. Space has again been challenged as something that even exists. And it may seem like you want some progress and there are things blocking your way. It often seems that way to me. But there's another possibility, which is just to walk. It's just to walk. We have to choose a direction. We have to choose when we're going to take a break. But if we just focus on, I am doing my practice, I am showing up to this meeting, or I am sitting here listening to my family member talk, or I am reading the newspaper, I am just doing this practice. I am walking. And there is something other than waiting for it to be the way I want it to be. And although I have been confused in the mountains many times and been like, oh man, I want to go I would like to be on the other side now. I am tired. Many times too, I'm just walking. I'm just here. And yesterday, at a meeting of religious leaders, talking about how to organize a larger group to do some social action. As often happens, the subject of Palestine and Israel came up, and everyone I spend time with is, unequivocally does not support the Israel government prosecution of the war in Gaza at this time. I don't hang out with people who don't think that is appalling. But having said that, there are enormous divisions about how to think about the Palestine-Israel conflict in general. And to be in this meeting and just be like, I'm not turning away. I could even see I'm looking, it's a Zoom meeting, and I was like, I kind of want to look, I have to physically want to look away, let alone be like, could we just figure this out? Are you kidding? We're going to figure it out? I'm going to figure it out? So, not turning away, that figuring it out, that's trying to touch, grab, fix, control, manage. And just say, I'm just here with you. Trying to understand you, trying to bring the viewpoints of people that I think are important to be heard here, including my own. And we did that practice. And we will meet again. We'll do some stuff. So this shedding of spatial divisions, or shedding or seeing through the way our mind has made space into east, south, north, west, inside, outside, far, near, all that, it can happen. It can happen in these somewhat like metaphorical ways that I'm using, and it can also happen, you might just be sitting in a Zendo one day if you do some long retreats and be like, all right, I'm not sure space exists. That's fine. At some point you will probably stand up and your body will understand space in some way. That's okay too. Nothing is destroyed. Nothing is destroyed. There's no violence to space. It's just seeing that the way we think of space is just a way we think of space. Or as Einstein once said, space and time are not conditions in which we live. They are ways in which we think. So yeah, even as all this can fall away, Shurto says, if you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from the skin bag here and now. That's another escaping. Oh, I'll go beyond space. I'll transcend space and time and leave this fragmented, broken-hearted body behind. That is not Zen practice. Right here. These sensations, these emotions, these thoughts, sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. You can't actually separate. Not possible. But it seems like we can. And that seeming can cause a lot of suffering. And sometimes it's hard to move closer. The body, our emotions and our environment are presenting us things we feel like it's too much. That's okay. Can be compassionate. But at the bottom, I always love that this, like so many Zen poems, just returns to the body. Song of Zazen says this very body is the Buddha. 30 verses of Vasubandhu says, this is the luminous body of liberation. This body. Don't separate. Stay home, just like if you were like, oh, I have a little time with these people that I care about, and I'm a little bit disinclined to just check out and think about something else or look at my phone, and you just make the choice to turn towards them because you love them. All right, well, thank you all so much for listening. And we have a few minutes for people to offer questions or reflections. As usual, I invite people to, one, if you're going to speak, speak with a full voice so everyone can hear. And two, to be lean of speech so we can have many voices or more voices. Larry.
Yeah, I'm just curious, when you were commenting on the Palestinian Gaza thing, where did you arrive at with respect to that?
Where did we arrive at? We arrived that we were going to convene again, and we would frame the discussion with the larger group of religious leaders. We would think about how to frame the discussion with the larger group of religious leaders more at that time. That's what we arrived at that meeting. Meetings about meetings. Good life. Go ahead.
What is it like to abide in a soggy sleeping bag?
Actually, to be honest, my sleeping bag did not get wet, but I've been in a soggy sleeping bag earlier in the year, and I don't know. I think my recollection of when my bag got wet, I went backpacking with my mother, who's 86. Come on! And we got a lot of rain, and we were like being super slack, so we all got wet. And we're like, we're out for one night. And I think my experience of it was that it was funny. So that's how I experienced that on that occasion. But I've also been scared. I've been scared. I've been irritated. I've been self-recriminating. Why didn't I plan better? But on this occasion, I was mostly amused. So. Yeah.
Hi, Ben. Thank you for your talk. It was wonderful. When you talk about with your son and how I kind of thought about how we want everybody to be who we want them to be. We want them to act like we want them to act. We want them to do that. And through the practice, it's really nice to have let a lot of that go, not all of it, but a lot of it go. And I have a little Buddha that's 5 that's in my life a lot, my grandchild. And one morning we were going somewhere and I'm like, hurry, we gotta get your shoes on, we're gonna be late, we gotta go. And she goes, Mimi, you're making me anxious. What are you talking about? Okay, it's okay, we can take a minute. So, those reminders seem to be everywhere. And yeah, it's just such a freedom to not have to dictate what everybody's doing and how they do it and to react to it.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm commending the emotional awareness of your grandchild. That's pretty cool.
A minor observation. We moved to Minneapolis about a year ago, almost exactly, and I noticed that the stoplights are really long. They take a long time. And I was always trying to get somewhere, and I would get very frustrated how long the light would last. And then I found the center, and I started to think about mindfulness and moments. And you said today about waiting being a good time to practice. So I actually started at stoplights to just take a breath and sit with it for a moment. And I found it to be incredibly, it brings the mindfulness and the moment to my life on a regular basis for a long time. And so I found it to be very helpful. So I just wanted to note that because you're all sitting at the same light sign.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Finding particular repeated parts of your life that are opportunities of practice can really, really help because you build a structure of support. We don't live in this temple. At a Soto Zen monastic training temple, every few minutes there's something reminding you to bring yourself to the moment. So we don't have quite so much, so you can make your own, and that's wonderful. And stoplights that's good. Good one. I'm wondering if there's anyone online who'd like to say anything. Okay. I'll let that go. Anyone else? Tanya.
Well, thank you for talking about practice both in a retreat setting and just everyday life, because I don't know, it's really helpful for me to remember that you don't have to go into retreat to practice, and you don't, anyway, I wanted to share my example of this. So right now I'm struggling with trying to identify when I'm fearful of things in daily life. And I realized I missed an opportunity on a mindfulness in a mountains retreat. We had 3 male bull moose walking through the campground. I think this is a memorable one for anyone who was there. I I was the one who was just petrified, and I could not move from behind the tree. Because I had learned that with moose, that's what you do, is you find a really big tree, and you put that between yourself. And I think that's just, I remember, I haven't thought of that for many years, but now, as I'm working through like these instances in like daily life of just acknowledging my fear, that's one I think I can come back to and say though, hey, you were really afraid, and look, nothing happened. And even Ben, who was not caring about the moose, and he just walked over to his tent regardless and didn't worry about it. Even Ben is still standing here, nothing happened. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, I could talk about those moves for a while, but mostly, yeah, fear is such a important part of our lives. And yeah, it is useful to recall, you can recall a time when you were afraid, to let it be in your body and your emotions so you can see that you can tolerate the fear itself. And then also recall, like, oh yeah, and I did survive. Yeah, like people, I don't get a lot of stage fright from giving talks, but you know, people who do, I'm like, did anyone ever throw anything at you? You know, so many people, they're like, oh, every time I give a talk, it's actually quite wonderful, but I'm terrified. And that's okay. But we can kind of see that it's like, oh, this is a bunch of people who love and care about you, who want you to do well. It's good. I know there are a couple other hands, but we have arrived almost at 11 o'clock, so I really should stop. So if you had wanted to say something, maybe you find someone else to talk to about it, or you can come talk to me. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn. So thank you all very much.